And it's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Lagos. Good morning, everyone. The hustling and bustling is real. It's Christmas Eve. Compliments of the season to you. They say Christmas is different now. Unlike before, when you buy Christmas shoes, Christmas clothes, you take your children out. It's just all about getting food on the table these days. And it's pretty amazing. So one of our correspondents was in town to find out what's on the shopping list of people this Christmas. And it will indeed blow your mind.
For as long as I can remember from my childhood, my mom always had a shopping list for Christmas, often including shoes, clothing, wristwatches and sunglasses, rice, chicken and turkey, firecrackers, hampers and Christmas cards. Those sort of things made the season a memorable one. But these are different times. People appear to be spoiled for choice, but there is only so little they are able to buy.
Merry Christmas, no.
Very important on the list of a lot of Nigerians are food items. Bumi Essien is an entrepreneur making a shopping list for Christmas. All we see are food items for the celebration, no clothes, shoes or spectacular items to share with family and friends. She has decided to make her purchases at the popular Martov market, hoping to tick the boxes at fair prices.
No be here, I won't buy them before. Now outside, I won't go buy. Now because I just say this one a better yam, now why they buy them? I know as a child, you will hear your mom will come, will bring broom and measure the size of your feet because you know that definitely new clothes is coming, new shoes is coming, you know, everything. But now, wear what you have, let's just eat. Even the food self, we're managing ourselves, that's the thing.
Apart from the items already purchased, she has a special concern to find affordable and nutritious meat for a 10-month-old baby who will be tasting Christmas meat for the first time.
This one is 2.5. This one is Nuela. It's big. Now 3.5 plus.
But the economic crunch occasioned by the shutting of Nigeria's land borders since August may be one reason for low patronage of the season that usually witnesses heightened activity.
This was then I will not see children when they go buy glass before everybody go to buy something. But now nobody to buy something.
While the borders may not open anytime soon, traders at the Lagos Island market are using familiar methods to get buyers, and not much is coming out of it.
If the price market 5,000 market, the price is 2,000. Why the price? I say no money now.
At the amper section, sellers are making a fortune. They are even looking to make higher turnover as Christmas Day draws closer. The traditional hampers and Christmas cards are still in fashion, but it is a time of reduced buying power, forcing some to prefer foodstuff such as rice to a basket of beverages.
I prefer a bag of rice because of the present situation, but as a corporate gift, hampers are still a little bit more acceptable and more, it's better than giving a bag of rice.
As Christmas Day approaches, many are hoping the season is merry and cheery, in spite of what they are actually able to buy or merely wish for. Sarah Ayeku, TVC News, Lagos.
So what's top on your shopping list this Christmas? Someone wanted to buy chicken. They said it's 5,000 naira. He said 5,000 naira for live chicken. All right, so do you have the one in Kuma? Perhaps you can pay less for it. Yebi Makpaderi, strategy and governance expert, Shea Ademo, publisher, African Affairs commentator. Merry Christmas to you and thank you for joining us.
Merry Christmas,
well, you guys are big boys, if I can use that word. You probably are buying shoes and clothes for your children right now. This doesn't apply to you, does it?
Be
frank and truthful.
Let me be frank with you. Priorities are changing with the times. It never crossed my mind to buy shoes, shirts, or whatever. Even my children don't ask because they're grown up now, and so they see the reality. I'd rather save money to pay the school fees, rather than. But they will still find a way to enjoy ourselves. Christmas is not all about new shoes. Yes, we experienced it growing up. Go to Kingsway, Boston,
Trans Amusement Park.
Yes, but there are concerts all over town now. Some are going for as much as 50,000 naira per ticket. So priorities are just changing.
Do you think that this report speaks to everyone? in Lagos, for instance?
So, I mean, at every point in time, there's always changes. Like he rightly said, things that we used to do are probably out of fashion now. I never had thought in my life that children will ask their parents to go and watch a show for 5,000 or 10,000 naira, but that's what happens now. So yes, you're right that globally, and I think we need to also look at that clearly, that globally, finance is not at the level that it is in those days. And it's also important to also note that in those days that you're talking about, rice was very luxurious. You know, it wasn't something you eat every day like you do now. You know, so it was for Sundays, it was for Christmas times like this, and people look forward to it. And that was why people go out of their way to eat it at Christmas, because it was just for that time. But today, rice is everywhere. Everybody eats rice and all of that. So some of the things that we used to keep for Christmas are things that we now do. People travel, people buy things, people buy clothes all the time now, you know. So Christmas time, most likely, you're likely to find one dress that you probably had not worn over time, and so you could go get it. So as much as the economic problem is there, things have changed, obviously. And,
Absolutely.
And so
I agree with you that things have changed. Even the Hamatan, I mean, we can't find it again. They say Lagos is so crowded.
Lagos, yes. There was
It's
enough
hot.
a few days ago, and it was so thick. The Hamatan haze was so much. And I say, hey, what's happening in Lagos? You know, I guess we're taking all the breath away.
And you talked about rice. They say the president has forced us to become patriotic now. So everyone is going for local rice this Christmas.
And we are finding it delicious.
Indeed. And perhaps we can even...
We grew up eating local rice. I mean, I know that in my area, in Obanikoro, we used to eat a lot of ofada. It was, in fact, we started to wonder, because over time those things disappeared. It wasn't a problem for us to even pick stones. It was something that we were used to. In fact, there were local vendors who would always carry those things around, and we preferred them because the taste of them were better, in my own opinion, than the parboiled
And
rice.
you mentioned that growing up, rice was even something that we ate occasionally. So how did we become suddenly addicted to rice? Don't we have any other menu?
It's amazing because, I mean, we've got, you know, a plethora of, cuisine,
Delicacies
you know,
to pick
delicacies
from.
to pick from. And I was in a committee trying to plan for an anniversary, you know, just a few days ago. And I said, look, why not let's focus on, you know, amala, you know, porridge, beans, and dodo. And you'll find out that people actually scramble for those things.
Would even appreciate
at
it better.
parties. Yes,
Yes.
I know, of father.
You'll be surprised that people even would prefer ofada at a party
Absolutely.
than
You
the
know,
foreign
Than
rice.
the- absolutely. So it's a function of, and in some ways, sometimes this kind of situation helps us, of us trying to sort of reappraise our priorities and start to do things in a particular, because at the end of the day, some of these things are, like you said, more delicious. They are things that we used to do. So for whatever it's worth, it won't be difficult as we imagine it would be if we decide to deliberately go back to it, because, you know, we've always had it anyway.
So while we're talking about Christmas and Nigerians are wondering what happened to the economy, the federal government has some more serious issues to battle with. Just recently, the U.S. government has added Nigeria to a special watch list of countries that have engaged in or tolerated severe violations of religious freedom. Now, this inclusion was disclosed in a statement titled United States Takes Action Against Violators of Religious Freedom and was released on Friday. So we're told that there are two categories. There's the special watch list where Nigeria is, alongside countries like Cuba, Nicaragua, and Sudan. There's also countries of particular concern, that's of a higher grade, where you have Russia, Burma, China, and also very serious countries like North Korea and the rest. Now, this particular development is based on a 2018 report of the U.S. Commission for International Religious Freedom, and it's noting that religious freedom trended negatively last year. They were making reference to the issues of IMN. They say that the Headers Farmers class had a lot of religious coloration. What's your initial reaction to this development?
Well, my initial reaction really was shock, because I thought that there were more pressing issues, domestically, that would attract the interest of the Americans and the other parts of the world. But like you said, we need to situate this, in the context of what the United States of America tries to do with foreign relations as an extension of their domestic relations. I've heard, it's been a talking point really in the last few days, and some of the reactions I have heard actually shows that people, both the low and highly placed, really do not understand what this report is all about. It has varied from high emotion to high, ignorance and prejudice without sounding, disrespectful. But we needed to know that the United States have institutionalized methods of doing certain things. I mean, the great countries, there is a terrorism index also. I mean, there is gender, issues. There are, child labor and the rest of them. So they come up with some of these things. Like you rightly pointed out, the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom came up with this report. In fact, it was published, I think, on the 9th of April. And they actually recommended that Nigeria be placed as a country of particular concern, which is, a more severe ranking. But then I think the U.S. State Department, based on perhaps some of the things that transpired since the beginning of this year, which included, if you remember, the branding or the categorization of the Islamic movement in Nigeria by the federal government as a terrorist organization. So those are some of the things that actually added up, and they were quite specific in their recommendations. There has been a lot of focus on the categorization, but they made a list of recommendations even to the U.S. government, which includes funding, the reconstruction and rebuilding of, infrastructure destroyed as a result of some of these skirmishes. There wasn't really a direct accusation of the Nigerian government, with the exception of the mention of the Nigerian army, which they said also contributed to this. But again, it's caused to question the perception of the United States of America, because globally, at least using the in the index of the Amnesty International, the alleged activities of the Nigerian army were not deemed religious. They didn't have religious connotation. They were more of human rights, concerns. But then, that is it. That is what that report says. And I think the response or the reaction also of the Nigerian government through the president's spokesman also begs the issue. Perhaps we'll have the opportunity.
Let me bring Ishaya Adeyemo in here. So they say that we've had an aide to the president say, who made the U.S. police of the world? And who made you the class captain? You even have your own domestic issues. But let's identify some of these issues. One case is the violation of rights, alleged violation of rights of members of the Islamic movements in Nigeria that have now been prescribed by the federal government. Recall that in December 2015, over 300 members of Shiite were killed for blocking a public road, of which no one has since been prosecuted. When we discuss these issues, Nigerians just seem to, maybe we've not been able to hear from most Nigerians, but we don't seem to discuss this issue from the human rights point of view and the severity that comes with having 300 people killed for simply blocking roads. So their leader, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife have been detained ever since for their alleged roles in the death of a soldier. So it's about one life against 300 people. We have also seen dozens of Shiites allegedly killed in the protest that they have conducted. What the Nigerian government and Kaduna State government is saying is that they are calling this disobedience of constituted authority and not recognizing the government. But there are people who would tell you that, well, these people are Shiites and not the other popular angle of Islam. Don't you see a religious coloration here?
So that's the point. I like the fact that you brought up the fact that you're really looking at human rights, and that's very critical. And it's important that he also said that we've had cases where the U.S. had said, oh, this is the index that we have, and in most cases they are not in accordance with what's on ground, the cases of Transparency International and all of the things they've said. But usually when things like this happen, what I would always advise that we do as a people is we visit the issue. In what way have we failed? can we be said to deal with ourselves? Because you see, religion for me is a personal thing. You know, these things happened. If you read about religion historically, there are things that were put in place to correct morals, to make sure that we're tailored in a particular way. And so sometimes the way we hold on to it and kind of use it against ourselves, sometimes I beg to be excused out of it. Because for me, at the end of the day, because you were born into a Muslim family, then you become a Muslim. And you're now holding, or I was born into a Christian family, then I now start to. Have you ever thought of the fact that it is possible that you were born into a Muslim family and you probably were born into the other? So the essence really is about the people. Am I dealing fairly with the other person? Am I being fair the way I treat? Those are critical things. Those are things we need to focus on. The religion, in my own opinion, people have even argued that it was the white people who brought them. And it was those people who brought this. And at the end of the day, when you even look into the history, you discover that it wasn't them. Before they came, we had religion.
Absolutely.
So religion has always been with us. So I think we need to be very contextual in the way we deal with some of these things so that we don't paint it in a way. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm asking myself, do they have an agenda like they do with the war? Are they trying to sell something? You know, whenever they come up with some of these stories, it is whether they have something that they are trying to pursue. And the reason why we all fall, and let me speak to the fact that whether they are class captain or not, whether we like it or not, they are class captains. They're seated there. That's where they are.
Yeah, from the results point of view.
Over the years, they've always done stuff. They've always supported us. We're already calling for support. Maybe they should come and do something about infrastructure. So it is the class captain who provide all of those things. So they would always do that. You know, but the point is, so as the rest of the class, what do we do? How do we manage ourselves in such a way that the class captain does not see himself as a superhuman being? That's, for me, is the concern. So that we're fair, we're truly fair. There are cases where they've said things and it was easily thrown away by everybody because it was clear that it was wrong. You know, so the concern is, how are we dealing with ourselves? Are we fair sufficiently enough the way we deal with ourselves so that at the end of the day, because for me, yeah, I mean, anybody can say anything. The bottom line is about the human beings, about the essence of religion in the first place. Religion was meant for us to deal better with ourselves so that there's a guide, so that something, you know, sort of control our excesses as human beings.
Let's stay with the IMN issue for a bit. So whether you call it an organization or not, the Shiites is a religious community, so to speak. Do you consider this case a case of severe violations of religious freedom?
I don't, because I mean, you look at the indices. I'm not sure that, despite all the hoopla, you know, about religion or the attempt to submerge some religions under, you know, one and another, I've not seen clearly any situation of suppression of the right to worship in Nigeria. Yes, you may question some authorities in the sense that I have heard of people, state government refusing, you know, to grant certificates of occupancy and the rest to some organizations to build places of worship. But it hasn't really escalated to a level where you can hold a state, you know, responsible for trying to suppress any religion, even though there is a political aspect to it, which I would have loved not to dabble into, because I'm not a Muslim, but I know that globally the Shiites are perceived even by other Muslims as not being, you know, reflective of what the holy books say, and the fact that they rely on other sources of authority, you know, to promote and practice their religion. But with respect to their impact on the state, I think I was a little boy, you know, since I started hearing about the menace that they create in Zaria.
The procession.
And, yes, you know, with their processions, which oftentimes question, you know, even state authorities. And until 2015, when you mentioned, I mean, several governors of Kaduna State have had to even give right of way, you know. There's nothing bad in that, you know, but I felt that the confrontation they had with the military. I mean, we know everywhere in the world the military is trained to, to be violent when the need arises. Even when there is no cause for it, they look for a way to exercise, what they can do best. So I thought it was foolhardy for the Shiite guys to have confronted the military at that time, but that was in 2015. I want to believe that the Nigerian authorities, especially our external affairs ministry, should do so much more to ensure that domestic issues that are of global importance are handled in a better way, and that they engage, with those influencers. Because, like you said, whether we like it or not, the United States of America, in fact, I don't consider them a class captain. They are more like a principal. Because, but then I also think that it's really much ado about nothing, especially if we're able to pick the signs and then do the right things. Because Saudi Arabia is one of the greatest allies of the United States of America. They are on the critical, country of particular interest concern on that list. So it really doesn't mean that America is saying, "Oh, we dislike you." Like you alluded, just yesterday, the Saudis announced the verdict for those who killed
death penalties.
And while so many other countries of the world are condemning that as a kangaroo trial, because the prime suspect that even American institutions, fingered as being responsible, his allies were set free. But the United States issued a statement yesterday appreciating the Saudi authorities for prompt trial.
No, we understand what the stance of the current president is when it comes to Saudi Arabia.
No. Well, I think it's an American thing, really, because you see, you can't deal with Saudi Arabia without looking at you need them the Americans need them, in the Gulf region. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And don't also forget that it's a country that is extremely wealthy in natural resources, especially oil and gas. So U.S. has vested interest in Saudi Arabia, and they will be willing to look away, even when Blue Mother is committed.
I get your point. Let's look at some of the reactions. So there's been mixed reactions following this. One international human rights lawyer, Emmanuel Ogebe, has lauded this development. According to him, Nigeria is the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian, and it's high time this is recognized. Do you consider that accurate?
I think it's very, very inaccurate. I think it's unfair and unfortunate because we all know, we're here in Nigeria and we practice Christianity, we practice Islam, and everybody does it everywhere, and nobody will stop you from practicing. I think that's really, really unfair.
Now, listen to this. Yes. He also alleges that what he calls the elimination of Christians from top government positions and replacement with Muslims. So he had cited an example here, Chief Justice Onage, amongst others. I was hoping that there will be a long list of names. When the Onage case happened, was there any religious intonation?
So I think, look, the problem here is, what were the reasons given? Onage had cases to answer as regards corruption. So whether he was a Muslim or Christian does not have any bearing in the case. The point is, if he didn't do anything, and the reason why he was chased out of office was because of his religion, then he can refer to that case. But there were reasons to show, evidences to show that there was a corrupt practice.
Does this in any way tell us how sharply divided along ethnic and religious lines were? For instance, there are cases where certain Nigerians are not well pleased with the distribution of appointments made in this administration. So that they're saying, oh, why do most of them come from the north? So some would say, for instance, that why remove someone from the south and replace him with someone from the north? The same way they would tell you, why remove a Christian and replace him with a Muslim? Does this in any way tell us, is the same explanation why they would say a Muslim ticket would not fly, even though that won election popularly in 1993?
And that's why I said earlier that it is about the human beings. So if I wear parts of this government, one of the things I think we always must do is to always consider fairness in the way we deal with people so that people don't cry when there's no reason to cry. Because in most cases, the reason why you give people like that the opportunity to say what they say is because they're able to point to one or two things that ordinarily you could have dealt with. You know, because for me, in my own opinion, the president who is seated on the seat is a trained soldier. And there's no way anybody can tell me that all his career in the army, he did not have friends or allies, and in some cases, family that are Christians and are Southerners. So for me, he has enough that it can really, really come out to show. So for me, what my advice will always be, whenever we're taking decisions and we're doing things, let us take care of certain things that would naturally spark or would be flagged and used against the kind of good work we're doing, so that there won't be cases of this. Because he has enough friends who are Christians, he has enough allied, those he's worked with, that he can pick and I will have used and will have made it easy. So that there won't be cases of such accusations, you know, because sometimes when you allow such things is when people will start, if you're corrupt, you're corrupt. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You should be dealt with, whoever you are.
On one hand is the issue of competence, on another hand is the issue of federal character, on another hand is the issue of, you know, being religiously fair and all of that. Let's take a commercial break now. When we return, we'll explore more angles to this story and also open the phone lines for your contribution. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Our attention today is turned to the fact that the U.S. government has added Nigeria to a special watch list of countries that have engaged in or tolerated severe violations of religious freedom. Yemi Makpadero, a strategy and governance expert, Sheyi Adeyemo, publisher, African affairs commentator. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course on the program this morning. Now, the government has denied what it was, that it was tolerating or engaging in violations of religious freedom. Particularly, they are saying that the crimes that were experienced last year around the Middle Belt states of Benue and Plateau were more of socio-economic and environmental crises between herders and farmers than religious. Do you think that we truly understand we have come to understand the underlying factors responsible for that particular crisis?
Well, I think we know, but because of politics, you know, we need to make some gains, you know, by coloring some of those actions. There is no doubt that those crises that we made reference to, which peaked, you know, in 2018 around the North Central, were socio-economic in nature. Otherwise, how do you now characterize the escalation of similar, you know, problem in Zamfara and even the president's home state, Katsina, which are essentially, you know, predominantly Muslim states? So we need to really exercise a high level of, you know, emotional intelligence when we're looking at sensitive issues like this. And it is one of the reasons, the statement you read out a moment ago was one of the reasons I said some of the reactions have smacked of, you know, high emotion, you know, because in reality, if you looked at that US report, it is actually more on the side of the IMN, because I tried to read through that report and they never really made any allusion to the fact that some religious bodies, organizations aside the IMN are being, you know, suppressed either by state or that the state is tolerating the actions taken. So I think one of the challenges we have in Nigeria is that whenever an issue comes up, we either look at it from the prism of religion or ethnicity. And, you know, it's something that is drawing us back a great deal. Of course, you also hold the politicians responsible for this, because what they do essentially is that they go to the back, they go behind to get people of their religion to support them and perceive them as representing their interests. Whereas their godfathers, their foot soldiers, and the rest of them are people from all over the place. So they only scream when things don't favor them. That is not to say that there is not a palpable sense, that even some of the best, most vociferous supporters of President Buhari have never thought about, some kind of, I don't want to use the word, nepotism, but it's a kind of perception that the president has a very limited scope of people he looks at when it comes to, taking decisions and making appointments. And it's important that that perception, is addressed. I'm not for people being appointed just because they are Muslims, Christians, they are South or North. But in a diverse country like Nigeria, I think we need to have diversity studies, even in institutions, so that we understand how some of these things play out. Because even in countries where certain ethnicities and religious persuasions are very minute in terms of, the prevalence, there is what we call affirmative action to ensure that everybody feels,
is
a
carried
sense
along.
of
So we understand what the position of government is. In fact, they've accused the U.S. of attempting to polarize the nation along political lines, along religious lines. They have accused the opposition for always taking advantage of issues like this and color it with religion. We understand that Nigeria is a secular state. I wish a lawyer was here to tell us how Sharia law operates in the north, if people of other religion are also subject to that particular code. But how much impact positively has religion brought to us as a nation? Because we appear to be very religious people, but yet corruption continues to rise. The economy isn't faring better. And then you begin to wonder, have we really been able to marry our religious beliefs, with practical development on the other side?
Yeah, so you've just touched on a very, very interesting point, because then it is, do we understand the essence of religion? Do we understand what the belief really is? Do we understand why there is religion? Because like I said earlier, it is meant to mold our morals, our behavioral patterns. So if it is about what I can get because I am a religious leader, then obviously I have failed. And if it's what I can get as a political leader that can lean on religious sentiments, then I have failed. Because you see, as human beings, most often we're always looking at ourselves. And so if I know that I can learn or take advantage of something, most often we do that. And that is why, as a people, because I'm a people's person, I would always want to narrow it down to us. In all of this, what is the benefit for the people? Because if we take our eyes away from the ball and we get distracted and we start to pursue certain things and we cause infighting within ourselves, we say we are at a point where we're having issues. We're going to have more issues. So it's important that we quickly call ourselves to order and say, we've heard what you have said. So what next, or what should we do now that would, at the end of the day, benefit all of us? Because at the end of the day, look, I grew up in a Nigeria where an Igbo boy was the one who led us in Yoruba language all through my secondary school year, because there was no distinction. It is when we started growing up that we started realizing that, oh, that one is Hausa, oh, that one is Igbo. I grew up in Lagos. I went to Bats Academy. It is a place where everybody was everybody's brother, everybody's friend, everybody's neighbor. We go into the next room, whether it's Hausa or Yoruba, to eat. When it is Christmas time, we share food. They will take food to them, they will bring food. It is when we started growing up that people started saying, don't eat that food, don't eat that food. Those are places we ought to go back. In my opinion, religion, or the way we have practiced it, has not done us any good in any way.
Let me please hold you for a minute to bring in this caller from Iriwole in Ogun State. Good morning, Joshua. Compliments of the season.
Okay, good morning, Nifemi. Compliments to you, Uncle Yori, and your guests. I greet everyone.
Thank you.
And say compliments of the season to Nigerians.
Compliment of the season.
I mean, for the first time, I'm happy when this report came up. I began to understand very clearly the politics of the U.S. in meddling in the affairs of other nations. I didn't know they used religion. I thought they were just democratic, as it were. But now I understand. I think it's just a distraction from what is going on with them. Trump has been impeached, and then the next thing is come to Nigeria and say, we have religious problems. Christians are not allowed to practice their religion. I mean, overlooking the fact that the issues here have a lot of criminal allegations involved. How can't you separate them? Is it Boko Haram? Is it IMNI? Is it the killing of people that is going on? Do we use religion to promote violence? Do we use religion to maim and kill people in the name of enforcing our beliefs on others? No, that's not. That shouldn't be part of democracy. I think they should look at it that if they are accusing Nigeria, the groups they are talking about, are they violent? Are they guilty of the things they have been charged to have done? They are. So the idea of we have religious intolerance, it is just laughable. I don't know that U.S., I mean, the present president we know is an evangelical person, and they are deeply religious. That is the issue there. So we should place religion where it is. It has killed us. It hasn't helped Nigeria. Nigeria is busy servicing the economy of Israel on issues of pilgrimage. Muslims are doing it for Arabs, and we are neglecting our own country. See, this religion has killed us. We should kill it. So if they want to talk about democracy, let them talk about democracy, not that we have religious intolerance in Nigeria. They have a Nigeria in their head that
I could keep listening to you, Joshua.
Doesn't belong to us.
I think it's a
Thank
beautiful submission. Thank you very much for your contribution. I don't know how accurately we can assess how Nigeria was faring before you said earlier that we had religion, but let's talk about perhaps Islam and Christianity. How Nigeria was faring before they came, whether we're doing any better. Do you want to make an attempt?
No, I mean, it's historically, I don't think so. I think in a sense, like you pointed out, religion.
Some of them came with education.
Yes,
sort of.
because we can also argue, that Western civilization does not connote civilization in itself. So what we're actually talking about is Western, civilization, which essentially, has become universal now. Yes, religion brought education, because I know that the early missionaries came with education. They came with, health care, even social issues. You had recreational centers built by these missionaries. But that is not what we are practicing now. What we practice now is political religion. You see, the values in the countries of the West, where Christianity came, for instance, you will hardly find people going to church anymore. Even the churches are being turned into warehouses and the rest of them. But over time, the values of Christianity have been, encapsulated in their culture to the extent that you don't have to go to church or even read the Bible before you know that you have to be your neighbor's, your brother's keeper, before you know that there are certain things. So, but conversely here, we profess more than what we do. So I think that's a difference. So it's difficult to say kill, well, I won't say kill religion, like Joshua, but I know it didn't mean it. But sincerely, there are times that you feel like, can we just take religion out of everything we do, especially when it comes to, issues of public, public
I don't know
issues.
how difficult it will be to anchor our development on religion, whether we can measure how effective religion has been based on how developed this country is. But let's quickly take Okorafor, who has called in from Maruchuko, Abia State. Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Good morning, Mr. Nifemi. Good morning, Mr. Deyemo. And good morning, Mr. Yemi. Compliments of the season to everybody in the studio. Honestly speaking, gentlemen, Merry Christmas, although it's just less than 24 hours. You see, religion is a sensitive issue to discuss in Nigeria. The people that brought these worships to us did not introduce it the way we are practicing this today. There were two major characters involved there, tolerance and sharing. Now, let me give you a look at St. Pope John Paul II. He goes to Maslati to preach. Now, look at Pope Francis II. That is from the Universal Church, the Catholic doctrine. Pope Francis was there. See, the Pope that is overall in the Catholic Church doctrine, when you talk about the canon law, he was there. Now, you come back home. In Nigeria, we can fight for religion, but we cannot fight for bad governance in the environment where we see ourselves today. Now, you ask yourself, why did America raise this issue? You see, sometimes when we do something like the program we are doing now, people like we talk based on the oracle of what the Spirit of God directs you. Now, somebody will sit down and then interpret it the way it feels that. But you are making an impact in order to push it to the authority. Because you cannot go to the government and say, do this. But with this medium, people can see that, make their own contribution. That is why you brought up this program for people to make that. That we have to sit down as a country, as a member, as a... You showed us some clips before this topic came on board. How Nigerians are scrambling for Christmas. Now, what did we see if you watch outside the country? Their own incidents, flowers, toys, and the rest. But Nigeria own is chicken, goat, rice, and what chop pepper. Have you seen the difference? Yeah, chop pepper. But down outside, the people that brought religion, they are just flowers, toys, and all this, and going to friends and to decorate their houses. There are two different things in terms of religion in this country and outside. So that is what Nigeria as a country, we should see that. You made mention about the U.S. and Saudi Arabia episode of journalist Gama. We saw what happened then. The report said that the main actor was not indicted. Why? And people are still having double mind about this. So these are politics everywhere. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to Oga Yuri, wherever he is, and his family, and you, Mr. Nifemi, that are making the program to be available for us. And the
Thank you very much for calling in.
God bless you all. May your tongue be filled with laughter. God bless you all.
Amen. Well, there are also Christmas lights somewhere in Lagos. It's just that it depends on the area that you visit. So what are the factors that you think some sort of polarizes us along religious lines? Because, for instance, I mean, this is a secular environment. I've never really thought of relating with my colleague based on religion. So if someone is effective on the job, if someone is doing fantastically well, who is collaborating with you, what comes to mind first isn't where he's come from or what God is worshipping. What are these factors that keep putting this thing in our eyes?
I think it's ineffectiveness in the way we have managed our affairs generally. And I think we need to go back to it. Because I'm happy that you refer to the fact that you're working in an organization where you have all sorts of people from different backgrounds and you're working harmoniously. Why? Because the management of this organization have ensured that they have put your eyes on the ball. So we need to shout, make so much noise that, look, leadership, please, can we have a clear objective? Can we all be focused on something? And can we all move towards there? Because you see, those things you can practice in your own corner. You can do whatever you want to do. But as a nation, as a people, what is most paramount on our mind is that we live well in a secured environment. We have food to eat.
And that we're able to celebrate Christmas and
with
a
lot of comfort. Rather
Kule
than...
has called in from Kaduna. Good morning, Kule.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you speak a little bit louder than that?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning,
all right,
my brother.
Good morning.
Yeah, a compliment of the season to you and the guests in the house.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think when we are talking about religion in Nigeria, I want to say personally that we give it that to the irresponsibility of the politician that we have nowadays. At least we have seen in Nigeria whereby the whole Nigeria voted Muslim candidate, and across the board, and there was no issue. But you will discover that down the line from 1999 till date, we have had this issue of religion tension. And that is because we have some politicians who are not really religious people. But because of what they want to get, because of their own selfish interests, they create a kind of polarization within people before election. And after the election, they will go back to go amend that senses that they have broken. And that is what has led us to where we are now. And subsequently, I want to say that we should be very careful of the crop of politicians we have these days. Many of them doesn't have the actual church or mosque they belong to, either NASFAT, either... But when they want to do election, they will associate. After the election, they will run away. So we have to be very careful of them. They are devil, they are irresponsible. As a matter of fact, they are worse than Satan.
It's all right.
So
Kule, you must have met Satan before or have a relationship with him to know. But thank you very much for your contribution. Very quickly, we run out of time. So there's been talk about whether religious leaders should endorse politicians, especially pre-election year. I mean, on one hand, we're saying that we're not developed and we're so religious. And then on the other hand, we're saying religious leaders, stay off. Do not use your pulpit or your mosque to promote political agenda. I mean, shouldn't the two begin to mix now?
Absolutely no. I think I support the notion that religious leaders should recuse themselves from anything political or that is seemingly political. You see, the politicians are the smartest species that we have in Nigeria. And the religious leaders who are meant to hear directly from God don't even know that they are being used.
You're saying they
by
can
the
be easily
politicians.
manipulated.
They are easily manipulated.
Do you agree with him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so we should just separate it clearly. And let religion take care of building morals as a foundational arrangement upon where all of the rest of the things will be built
So
on.
earlier you agreed that indeed the U.S. is the class captain. He even said that perhaps,
they're even, yes.
perhaps they're principals.
Yes.
All right, let's take this call from Abuja, perhaps the last call for today. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution. You have just 30 seconds. Oh, I'm so sorry. We lost that. You can try again. So, and many Nigerians would agree with you. There's some statistics here that Nigeria is a pro-American nation. In 2012, they say, according to Global Leadership Report, 77% of Nigerians approve of U.S. leadership, 9% disapprove. And in 2013, a BBC World Service poll says 59% of Nigerians view U.S. influence positively. But what is the implication of this this watch list on our relations with America? You recall that there's been some sanction, especially during the nullification of the June 12 election, sanction and bans on travels. But as we speak right now, U.S. is perhaps one of the biggest trade partners with Nigeria. What do you see happen if Nigeria if U.S. continually perceive us this way? What's the implication on our relationship with them?
I think in the immediate term, there are really no implications. But on the long term, if this perception persists, certainly, I mean, there will be grave implications. But I would just want to warn that whether the perception of America is correct or not, we owe ourselves as a country a responsibility to show to the whole world. And we have to start from the inside by making people see clearly
Let's take
that
a very
government
last
is not...
Innocent has called it from Ikeja. Good morning, Innocent.
Good morning, sir.
Innocent, you have just 30 seconds. Go ahead.
All right, sir. I think I must appreciate you guys, especially Mr. Demo and Co. Thank you very much for this kind of
Thank you, sir.
opportunity. You see, the religion as it is, many of us are scared to say what is really happening to Nigeria when it comes to religion. Religion can never solve our problem. Instead, it will create more problems. Because the reason is, that Mr. Demo said something that in those days, they will go to Muslim house, they will eat, and the other will come away. But today, we have problems because the Orthodox churches like Catholic and others, they are still keeping that faith. But we now have some kind of duplicity where you have some new generational churches, whatever, that will tell you if you eat so, it will cause this, it will cause that. That is where the problem is. And in the Muslim angle also, you still have some kind of groups coming up claiming to be holier than thou. even than their own brothers, their brothers in the Muslim fold. Same way we are claiming to be holier than some of us in the Christian fold. This is the problem we have. Somebody said something, yes. I remember when one of these governors was campaigning there. He went to the mosque, tie his head, they'll do everything and do it like if he was a Muslim when he's a Christian. You see, all these things, we are deceiving ourselves and we are being
No, he was simply identifying with the other group. Thank you very much for your contribution. Mr. Adeyemo, he mentioned your name twice, so you took away your closing remarks slot. Thank you so much for coming. Sheyi Adeyemo, publisher of Inside Watch Africa. I love the fact that you always have that logo on all of your dresses. He's also an African affairs commentator. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the program. Yemi Makpadero, one of my favorites on the show, strategy and governance experts. Thank you so much for coming.
My
Compliments of the season. I hope that you guys drop your files before you leave.
Okay, it's all right.
And now that we've established the fact that the shopping list of Nigerians are changing, I think it is just good that some of you who have access should think of sharing with people who do not have this season. A very big thank you to you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow on Christmas Day. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.